Hello there folks, this is Ferengi on board here. Welcome to my YouTube channel again, a place where I present different topics and ideas on spirituality, expand people's awareness and consciousness if they are willing to accept, and present different ideas and share my wisdom on topics that people may find somewhat difficult to understand. And if possible, I can provide some answers or some interpretations, but also I prefer to support the idea that whatever I provide belongs to sources that I have encountered, and you are the vibration of, well, based on your vibration you attract certain specifics. So the point about this is very simple. Everything belongs to my experience, so therefore I would also ask people not to take whatever I say too much for granted. It does not mean that it's not necessarily true, but truth is not something that applies universally. If people have forgotten what universally means, well, it actually means that belongs to the universe or applies to the universe at large, and there is kind of no such thing. But it depends on people's awareness and how much they are willing to expand. Now today I would like to expand a bit on the previous video that I made on NPCs and reality and why the matrix is strong, and I would like to discuss a bit on the idea of life cycles. And the idea that a life cycle is nothing else than, well, basically the cyclicity of everything regarding this universe. This universe exists based on a, let's say, physical premise, and this physical premise means that there has to be a force that pulls everything together. When things are pulled together by a certain force, they create a so-called physical shape. This physical shape has a certain duration because that force can only be supported, right, for a certain duration, and afterwards the object, the being, may actually come apart. Now it doesn't mean that time actually has to be short. Planets can last almost indefinitely, bound together by those forces, stars and literally everything else. But it is mostly the structure of atoms and molecules and the way they form themselves together that supports literally everything that is physical in nature, because energy compacts itself into atoms and then it compacts itself to different forces, well, mainly gravity, and it exceeds human intellect through different ways, because people not even now can understand what gravity is. Let's call it the force that keeps everything together. It is what I can call a form of love, because through love things are pulled together. Now it doesn't mean that when they fall apart love is no longer existent, but love is also something not entirely, fully and completely devoted, because devotion is indeed an emotion, but the point about love is that you don't need, or you shouldn't use love as a pretext to become more repulsive. Most people do not manifest love, they just manifest codependency, and if you look around, you'll probably understand what I mean. What I mean is very simple. People manifest very simple attraction, and, well, the point is very simple. People manifest this codependency because they are desperate about attention. They want attention, but when they find someone who they are attracted to, okay, they just spend time with that person, but each one of those actually imposes, even silently, if not verbally, but at least silently, there's this kind of contract that if you are together with that person, you cannot go with any other person. That is why you'll see some of your friends, they get married, or they have a girlfriend, or they have a boyfriend, and guess what, you and your 20 years of time spent together are simply no longer important to them. It is how NPCs actually work, because I kind of don't like calling people bots, but okay, because NPCs is what I call a neutral playing computer, okay, or a neutral player as I call them, right? So the point about this is very simple. People who are NPC, who have NPC awareness, okay, they are still players. It's just that for this experience most likely they chose to be one. Okay, awareness is that which makes the difference in between an NPC and a player. And for that awareness. In order for a being to have awareness, there has to be access to a magnificent amount of code, to which each and every being has, but it has to experience through consciousness through different ways, okay, so different many lifetimes, so that they acquire spiritual wisdom that they can deploy through in other lives. Now the point is, lives are not necessarily interconnected. It's just a necessity. When you need to understand something, when you simply have forgotten something about your favorite game, you need to actually check it out, right? You need to get back into the game and, well, let's see, you will go to that specific place or you will check that specific skill, right? And you cannot do that without entering that life cycle, okay? Every time you enter a video game, it is a life cycle. Every time you wake up, it is another life cycle. People have misunderstood this idea of life, that life is nothing else than you are born and then you die. And well, what happens in between is basically your choice, but it's not entirely your choice, because you have power only over a few things, not over everything. And just focus to manage, not control. Manage those few things you can control. You cannot control in this conscious life, you cannot control who your parents are. Most likely you have chosen them before you were born, while you were creating the karma, or let's say the memory needed so that the body you are in becomes available to you. And this is like going through a lot of quests in a video game, because there are lives in between lives. Now the point is, this may go probably a lot further, but let's not get too detailish in here. So life can be very much similar to the idea of video games, and video games are something that allowed me a lot to explore and understand deeper cores of myself, and also understand life from different prisms, because I usually cannot play a game, but I kind of experience that. And well, most people might say they are doing that, but I'm saying that they kind of only overinvest emotionally. They do not see necessarily things as aspects and facets of existence. They probably invest a lot emotionally, and that's why they say that they are feeling the game. So it's a difference in between what I feel naturally, and I also invest emotionally, because in the end everything has to have at least a bit of emotional investment. Now how much you put in, well, that's up to everyone, but there's always a good limit to preserve. If you overinvest in a video game, it's like investing in a separate life that you have. Once you join a video game though, the point is very simple. You enjoy playing that game and you immerse yourself in that game. So basically and technically what happens when you immerse yourself in that game, what happens is very simple. You lower your awareness over this world that you are living in, and you increase your awareness in that world. Now the level of awareness also dictates whether you are, well, not fully dead, but in a way you are dead, okay? And this is not a pun towards something like brain dead or anything like that, because I don't play puns or the such without telling them. I'm not playing hidden jokes anyways, and I don't judge. Of course, I'm not a fully objective person, but I prefer keeping myself as objective as possible. Now the point about life is, when you enter a video game, okay, you are a player in that video game, and you are surrounded by NPCs, just like in your real life. The purpose of most NPCs in this life is to make a player's existence available, because they will simply function by, you know, the core instincts, okay, of the human body, and well, sooner or later they will execute the command. Why NPCs are easy to control and why everything changes so easily is because they have a simple coding, and they have almost the same coding worldwide. So the so-called occultists are not necessarily strong. They are just the developers who are tweaking and turning on and off a few switches of their enormous state machine, okay? Because these NPCs have a state machine, okay? Everything is basically a state machine, which means something, or let's say a bunch of code that decides what stance a certain character will take. To give a simple fair example, in video games when you enter the range of a certain NPC, they'll become mostly aggressive and they will engage you. That is a state machine. While they are basically passive and wandering around, basically what they are doing is they are performing a scanning sweep. If a player enters their range, then they suddenly switch from idle to aggressive. That is how the whole world works. When an event needs to happen, it only happens for the players to understand. It's exactly the same thing as in video games when a global event happens, or I don't know, a local event happens, or one of those bigger events that they are announced on the map, and people just gather around and beat that huge boss or whatever that is. Okay, so that point is very simple. Okay, the point is it's just a switch or a set of switches that are being pulled on and off. That's the whole power of these so-called occultists. Of course, you'll probably laugh at me because in your imagination you probably see them like some kind of super almighty demigods or even gods or whatever, but that's only your imagination. Now, the occultists and the such are, and at the same time some of them are not humans. Well, I presented my idea in the previous video what they would be and a bit about their purpose. And let's not spread too much, let's not spread this video too long. So the point about these NPCs is that they just follow their basic coding. You as a player are born as an NPC because again you are a neutral player, okay? And your body basically is a neutral player command, as I call it, okay? Now the point is, from becoming a neutral player command, which actually is nothing else than, well, neutral, basically you just live life and you don't have any perception over it because you are so entrenched in other people's teachings and the such. Now you have to become a new player command, which means you're basically starting to become yourself, because that is the point of this life. You have to become yourself. Everyone around you is authentic because they are following their code. They are bots, and bots are always authentic to their code, right? When you create a robot, it is authentic to its code because it doesn't have an awareness. It doesn't know it can actually perform more, and in order to perform more, it has to be capable at least of creating its own code for that to become possible, or become connected to the universal code that would make more of its things capable. Because a robot will be created in such a way that it can perform some menial tasks, but the idea of thinking, it just requires them to become more connected. And just because they are cybernetic on the inside, well, the mind is also cybernetic. The mind that we have, it has a similar vibration to that of the cyber. Basically, cybernetics are nothing else than a kind of a subconscious mind, let's call it. Another gateway to the subconscious mind, let's call it like that. But if you are aware or not of your subconscious mind, it still exists in there, because it will guide your life based on what you have acquired, and at the same time, it is the black box of your existence. All your memories, all the things you have done and have been done to you and have happened to you, they are all stored in there, even from previous lives. And the subconscious mind is actually the connection you may have between you and the so-called Akashic records. Now, the cycle of characters in a video game is as simple as that in your real life. When you enter your video game, you will most likely cherish your characters, because when you enter your video game, most likely, well, I can assure you most of the gamers don't cherish their characters because they don't have much love for themselves, and the reason why they play video games is because they want to escape this current life. And they're probably not aware, but they're actually escaping that life. The moment you indulge yourself in a video game, or when you join it for fun or for whatever reason, your life here kind of ends in a way, because your awareness of this world simply diminishes, and your awareness simply switches to that new game. It is part of the so-called state machine. You are now paying attention to another life, and you are doing whatever you are doing in there, based on the rules and whatever possible in there. So you have started a new cycle of existence, okay? You have started a new life. You have joined that video game. Now you have to understand that each dimension, each perception, each dimension of existence, okay, irrespective of its vibration, be it 3D, 5D, 10D, whatever, each of these dimensions, and their multitudes of parallel dimensions, okay, these dimensions are very simple, okay? They have a simple rule. Well, they are complex, yes, but they have a simple rule, I want to say. You need a body, okay, a compatible body that you can experience that dimension with. And in the case of video games, you will need your character, okay? Just like when you create your character for the first time, okay, you mix certain features. It's exactly the same way that you create your body in this life, because you have chosen everything about this body, because basically you are the developer of this body. Before this life, you have been through different quests that you have performed, let's call it like this in a more simplistic way. And you have acquired the necessary memory, okay? The memory bank had to be filled with different codes, let's say, okay? Memory codes, let's say like that, so that the body you are in becomes available to you. And at a certain time, when that body is fulfilled, okay, it only exists as an idea, and then that idea is sent into the world, and you know, the correct NPCs will actually execute the command and will actually, let's say, physically procreate your body. Now then comes the quest, in which you will actually go and find those NPCs that will give you the body, and you have a few tools to figure that out, and no, you cannot fail because you can only enter the body that you have created. Now there are different possibilities because there are also different environments, and when you want to experience something in this world, like for example how it is to be abused, how it is to experience life in an ecstatic way, how it is to experience different thousand other things in this life, you will need to experience them, but you also need a little cost. You will need to go through certain, let's say, traumas in life, or little traumas or bigger traumas, because those things are what actually open different portals in your lifetime, portals that will allow you to understand things in a better way. And that is what people actually call as wisdom, because wisdom is nothing else than accumulated information which you sort out through experience into knowledge. Knowledge is a faster information, right? It is information that is weeded out of the things that you no longer need, because information comes in all sorts and shapes and sizes, but you need to suit it to yourself, and then you have knowledge. And that knowledge, the more you practice, turns into wisdom, because you finally find faster and better ways that suit you to do a certain thing. It's just like in programming. You're gonna do the same tasks, but you're gonna learn faster and more, let's say, augmented, or you know, more optimized ways of performing your same code, irrespective of language that you're gonna use. And when you enter your video game, your character will be created, but it is only a projection of your character. It is not your real life character, okay? It is your it is not a real life character in the sense it does not belong necessarily to this world, but at the same time it does, because you experience that character in there through the prism of your character that you are living currently in, okay? Well, that's actually living in your consciousness, because the body lives in the consciousness, not vice versa, okay? And I will remind you again, I do not believe in the idea of a soul. Now the point is, whatever comes, I call it a facet of consciousness, and this facet of consciousness manifests itself and allows this body to exist, and you experience through its prism. Now you experience your character through the prism of this body that you live in, just like this body that you live in you experience through another prism, and well, this probably may go on. But you see, the simple point is, you're going to experience your NPCs and your characters in the video game that you chose to experience in, and well, that's like a life that you're living, and your character is actually living a life as well, because the moment you leave the game, that character of yours dies, okay? It is deleted. Of course, it is not deleted from the account memory, okay, and from the memory database that the server has, okay? If you get back into your game, you're gonna have your character back, but that is not the same character. It is gonna be a wholly different character. It looks the same, and you're probably too identified with that character to understand the mechanics, but in programming, every time the code runs, you have the same variables that kick in. but technically they are completely different. They will always have the same name and the same functionality, and they are born, the code performs, and when their time comes they die, but the code keeps going on. When the code starts all over again, because code is nothing else than a cycle. It is the cycle of life. The code is read, everything goes on, the code is read, everything goes on, and then the code goes on and on and on and on. Everything is like a kind of a repetitive event in a way. That's how code has to be run. It has to be read even several times per second so that something actually occurs there where you actually see in the video game. And in order for the code that you experience and allows you to exist, it also works at the same time. Your subconscious is the processor that handles this, and it does a very good job at that, and you have technically no power over that unless yes, you have, but a very small power. You cannot control your heartbeat necessarily. Yes, you can reach a certain level of consciousness in which you can do that, but it would be preferable not to handle with things that were specifically designed to function at their own rhythm, okay? Do not play with things that they were made to function at a rhythm that is most suitable for yourself. Sure, you want to enjoy something or doing something that others cannot. Do not attach yourself to that either, because it's not necessarily much. Sure, you have an ability that others don't, but don't use it too much, for you may cause more damage to yourself than people who simply don't have that. Every other ability that you have compared to people is always a double-edged sword, and depending on how well you use it, well, it can actually impact you more or less. Now, the characters are just like the codes, like the variables in the code, because the characters that you see in your game are nothing else than a bunch of variables that allow that to exist. And all those variables, each and every second, they are created and they die, just like the cells in your body. They are just like variables that perform the code. When the code is executed, those cells actually execute a larger bunch of the code, because they themselves are like functions, or like classes, or a bunch of classes. Let's call that a package of classes, okay, that execute a certain code when a certain necessity, when a certain thing is needed, okay. Parasites themselves are also another bunch of codes, just like viruses in the cyber world are, okay. Viruses are kind of the critters nowadays of the cyber realm, let's say. Now, the point about your characters is that they die when you leave the game, and all the variables that are working towards keeping it alive, they are being created and destroyed each and every second, probably more times per second, probably once every few seconds, but this is how life goes. Now everything that is created, okay, it is just a projection, because in programming a variable and literally everything is just a projection. When you create a variable and you run the code, every time you run the code, you are too attached to the idea of identity, and you get the impression that through your identity that variable has a name and a value and that's it. No, that variable has a reference, okay, to a name and to a value, okay. Those name and value aspects, they will be created as a variable each and every time. Each and every time is gonna be a wholly different variable. You can call it one and the same, you can call it different, it's not gonna make any difference anyways. There is no point in arguing over here, but I assure you it's gonna be the same. It's like you live life now, and then when the code finishes and you simply perish, you will be born again in the same life. It will be a wholly different you. At the same time, you are living hundreds of other lives, because the same variable can be used probably for other processes at the same time, and those are again references to that variable. Now, the point about that is, going even further, you will have to understand that there are a lot of things beyond this physical realm and this idea of identity, which is a dangerous thing to fall for, because the moment you give meaning to something, it's almost like a self-destruction button. Now, in the same way, when you go to bed, okay, it's like technically you are dying. When you fall asleep, that is a kind of lethargy, okay. That lethargy is a kind of death, okay. It is not the permanent death, let's say, the idea when you relinquish the body, when you say farewell to your body, okay. You have to understand that your body is your greatest friend. Like it or hate it, do whatever you want to it. It is doing the best it can so that you can experience this life. So I would actually ask you to actually be more loving towards it, because it's always gonna be the only friend that you have. Your family may perish, your family may turn against you, brothers and sisters may turn against you, your best friends can turn against you, but your body cannot leave you. Your body leaves you, and, well, it will leave you only once, and that is the final farewell, when your facet of consciousness will simply relinquish that body. Depending on your level of awareness and your power, let's say, there have been some beings who are capable to create something like a memory bank of their body, and whenever needed they can actually come back into the world, sooner or later through the same body. This is something quite advanced in terms of power, and it is possible, but to most people it will sound as sci-fi. And I can say sci-fi has actually plagued people's minds with a lot of nonsense that, well, it is interesting to believe in because it nourishes imagination, but if you have untamed imagination, you will create all sorts of realities and lose yourself in those realities, instead of simply understanding the fact that this reality has a few ways of being and that's it. If you add too much to it, you're creating your own reality, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but do not get lost into it. It is easy to get lost into that. So the point about life is just simply vibration. It is a vibration that simply allows things to manifest. Everything in this universe has a vibration, which means that they are alive. The whole universe is in a way alive, but if you look at it, there is a vastness that, well, is represented by basically nothingness. There is darkness and basically there is nothing in there. Well, people and scientists will tell you that there is dark matter, there is some kind of force in there. There is basically gravity that keeps this fabric of the universe together. Okay, and yes, there are the celestial objects of the universe that you can see somewhere and each and everywhere, but they are very far one from the other, because that's how life actually exists. And each solar system that we have might actually be an atom, and the galaxies that they are formed into might actually be a molecule, and you can imagine that going by this we can only be the molecules into something that's very, very big. And we're actually molecules in what I call the structure of consciousness, because consciousness is an organism that expands. And there are other consciousnesses most likely, but consciousness, let's take it as a whole, and it always expands. It always expands because it's always curious to experience what is more. And through its expansion, it's like your mind. When you expand it, you will require more neurons, and through a process called neurogenesis, in your dreams, while you sleep actually, new neurons are being born. This is something that most people didn't know, but new neurons are being born in your life, and those neurons will be also used. And just like that, consciousness expands and creates other new dimensions, most likely. So hopefully you have understood something about this video. I try to go not too deep, but also present some things beyond the standard understanding of humans. So, well, what can I say? If you like this type of content, feel free to like and subscribe and share your opinions about it. And I'm looking forward to your answers and to your support and whatever positive and constructive feedback. And, well, as usual, love yourselves more, do the job that needs to be done to improve yourselves, become more introspective, and take care of yourselves. You are loved and appreciated. Ferenc Board signing out.